let's just start with a quick revision of the term voidable where we left our last class. I'm deliberately trying to make the contract classes crisp because I understand that your juris classes are extremely theoretical, and it makes more sense that if we could do something smaller in a shorter period of time in a more effective manner, it will serve us better results. So what I do is that your class is taken the way it is, and आपको class के बाद एक revision note मिल जाता है जिसमें हम जितने भी cases cover करते हैं at least वो आपके लिए side by side आपको वहीं पे मिल जाते हैं. And in today's class also what we'll do is that we'll take up the questions at the end of the class, because as I told you in the last topic there were no questions per se, but again today's topic is very short, it's very crispy, and we just get over with it very soon before we literally venture into the domain of those contracts which can be, or those agreements which can be vitiated by consent. So to start, okay guys, I think the screen doesn't want to be shared. So, but you got an idea of that flowchart. I'll get it put in the revision notes itself. But let's just start with the definition of the term voidable again. We left the class there. It says an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. Now, this is where we ended our last class yesterday. And we see, do you realize that अगर आप void की definition पढ़ो जो आपको section 2G में मिलती है, it says an agreement not enforceable by law is void. यहाँ पर contract का कहीं नामो निशान नहीं है. पर जब आप voidable की definition देखते हो, so you see it says an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one of the parties, one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. So do we see that when an agreement is voidable in nature, when it is something which can be declared void by one of the parties at the option of one of the parties, it is still a contract. A contract has already been framed to that extent and has come into existence. It is only that after the contract has come into existence and is at an executable stage, you declare it to be void. So this is the most basic difference between the term void and voidable. कि voidable जो है वो हम contract के context में use कर रहे हैं, जबकि जो term void है वो हम सिर्फ एक agreement के context में use कर रहे हैं. अब ये void और voidable और void ab initio में क्या difference है, ये हम काफी बार discuss कर चुके हैं और ये almost हर law के context में आता है. But what is important is कि हम Indian Contract Act के अंदर ये जो term void है इसको कौन से और sections के साथ पढ़ते हैं. So let's move to section 13, which defines consent. Now, the brilliant thing of our law is that the Indian Penal Code does not define consent. It started to define consent only after the 2013 amendment after the Nirbhaya case. But the Indian Contract Act has been defining consent for a very long time now. So section 13 defines consent. It says two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. पर अब इसके अंदर भी एक जोल है कह सकते हैं, या फिर एक डबल मीनिंग वाली दो चीजें आती हैं. कैसे? अब ये देखो, it says that two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. But when you take a look at section 14, it defines free consent. अब ये तो बहुत ही कंफ्यूजिंग नहीं हो गया? कॉन्सेंट का मतलब तो फ्री कॉन्सेंट ही होना चाहिए, इन दोनों टर्म्स के अंदर कोई डिफरेंस नहीं चाहिए. सो व्हाई दिस कंफ्यूजन एट द फर्स्ट प्लेस? सो नाउ लेट्स टेक अ लुक एट व्हाट 14 says and how we differentiate between consent as well as consent. Section 14 defines free consent as consent is said to be free when it is not caused by one, coercion defined in section 15, 2, undue influence as defined in section 16, 3, fraud as defined in section 17, 4, misrepresentation as defined in section 18, 5, mistake subject to the provisions of section 20, 21 and 22. Then it says consent is said to be so caused when it would not have been given but for the existence of such coercion Nice drawing. Thanks, Joey. You know, now you've been with me through a course of so many classes. So you realize that one of the ways I teach is by these drawings. I should do a graphic designing course actually to make these more animated. But yeah, coming back to consent and free consent. अब देखो सेक्शन 13 consent define कर रहा है by saying that parties should agree to the same thing in the same sense. It is talking about the concept of meeting of minds. But section 14 जो है वो फ्री कॉन्सेंट डिफाइन कर रहा है और फ्री कॉन्सेंट डिफाइन करते हुए भी अपने सेकंड पार्ट के अंदर वो फ्री वर्ड को पूरी तरह से छोड़ देता है. वो कहते हैं consent is said to be so caused when it would not have been given by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake. So we largely agree that अगर हमें एक Venn diagram इसके ऊपर बनाना हो तो free consent is just a very small element of consent. But if we have to define between the two, that is when this drawing comes into relevance. No consent whatsoever का मतलब क्या होगा? Let's say कि मैं सड़क पे जा रही हूँ और I am just walking and someone just comes, snatches my bag and runs away, right? So in that scenario, there was absolutely no meeting of minds. There was absolutely no consent at all because I would have never agreed to give that person my bag. वो आया, वो कब उसको लेकर चला गया मुझे पता ही नहीं चला. But दूसरे केस में when is the consent? There is consent, there is some meeting of minds, the parties have agreed, but it has not been done in a free manner. आपके सामने ये जो दूसरी ड्राइंग है जिसके अंदर वो एक बंदूक भी आपको दिख रही है मॉक्सी, उसमें आप देखोगे that's a very clear cut example of coercion which we are going to study today, which essentially tells us that the consent is not free. उसने मेरे ऊपर गन तानी और उसने मुझे कहा give this bag to me. अब मैंने उसको एक फियर एलिमेंट के अंदर आकर वो बैग दे दिया, पर इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि मैंने वो बैग देने को अग्री नहीं किया, कि मेरा एक बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं था, कॉन्सेंट नहीं था. द मोमेंट उसने मेरे ऊपर गन मारी, हमारा जो माइंड है वो मीट कर गया and I said, yeah, please take this bag because otherwise you'll shoot me. So rather than getting shot and rather than getting killed, it's better you take my bag. And just think about it. Like there are two ways that I could go about the situation, right? I could get a report filed in the police saying that I never agreed to give this man my bag. He coerced me. He forced me to part my bag with him, and I had to agree with him, and I had to give this bag to him. That's one. And second is I say कि चलो बैग में तो वैसे ही कुछ नहीं है, लेके जाना तो इससे क्या जा रहा है ना? तो then I give my free consent also to it at a later stage. So do we find, I hope there's no confusion here that consent and free consent are absolutely two different terms. I hope we are clear so far as that aspect is concerned. Anyone has any doubt till here? And that is exactly the reason as to why consent and free consent have been defined in different definitions altogether. क्योंकि कॉन्सेंट आपका ज्यादातर कॉन्सेप्ट से डील करता है जो कि मिस्टेक पर्टेनिंग टू अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से रिलेट करते हैं. जैसे अगर हम मीटिंग ऑफ माइंड्स का एग्जांपल लें, सो लेट्स से आई हैव टू लैपटॉप्स विद मी. वन इज अ डेल लैपटॉप एंड अनदर इज एन एचपी लैपटॉप. Simran is very interested in buying my HP laptop and I am very interested in selling my Dell laptop. So I asked Simran, would you like to buy my laptop for 50,000 rupees? Simran says, oh, ma'am is finally ready to sell her HP laptop to me. मुझे तो कब से वो लैपटॉप चाहिए. तो she says yes. अब मैंने उसको पार्सल कर दिया अपना डेल लैपटॉप, उसको तो मेरा HP लैपटॉप चाहिए था. There is absolutely no meeting of minds here. We are not consenting to the same thing in the same sense, right? So there was no consent. तो एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो है, क्योंकि हम सेम थिंग के ऊपर कंकर नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो एग्जिस्टेंस में आ ही नहीं सकता, क्योंकि एक अग्रीमेंट हमारा एक सेम चीज के ऊपर है ही नहीं. बट दैट इज नॉट द केस विद फ्री कॉन्सेंट. इन द फर्स्ट एलिमेंट हम फिर भी, अगर हम एक वेक सॉर्ट ऑफ अग्रीमेंट पे भी, एक कंक्लूजन पे भी पहुंच रहे हैं, we are dealing with it freely. We are saying you take my laptop and you take the 50,000 rupees, right? That's a different thing. That the subject matter what we were talking about was not the same. But in the other case, the element of freedom is absolutely missing. You are being coerced, you are being pursued, you are probably being misrepresented, someone is probably cheating you. वहां पर ये फ्री कॉन्सेंट का एलिमेंट आ रहा है. एक बहुत बेसिक सी चीज अगर आपको याद करनी हो अपने आंसर्स, अपने एमसीक्यूज को सॉल्व करने में, तो आप ये कह सकते हैं कि जहां पर भी कॉन्सेंट का एलिमेंट आएगा वहां पे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हमेशा वॉइड होगा, वो वॉइड एब इनिशियो होगा, क्योंकि मीटिंग ऑफ माइंड्स पार्टीज का बिल्कुल भी नहीं होगा. पर जहां पर भी वॉइडेबल का कॉन्सेप्ट आएगा, वहां पर पार्टीज के पास एटलीस्ट एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है मीटिंग ऑफ माइंड की, और हर उस सिचुएशन के अंदर, हर उस एलिमेंट के अंदर जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होगा वो वॉइडेबल होगा. अब अगर आप सेक्शन 14 को देखो, सो इट इज टॉकिंग अबाउट coercion, undue influence, फ्रॉड, मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन, मिस्टेक, राइट. इसको आप याद कर सकते हो CUFM, CUFMM. You can just create a small mnemonic, you can add it to your bare acts there only. CUFM, CUFMM. इसे आपको हमेशा ये याद रहेगा कि इसके अंदर कौन कौन सी चीजें हैं: coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake. अब जहां तक तो रही coercion, undue influence, fraud और misrepresentation की बात, इन सब सिनेरियोज के अंदर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स वॉइडेबल हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि जो एलिमेंट जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं वो फ्री कॉन्सेंट की है. पर जहां पर हम मिस्टेक की बात करते हैं, लार्जली कॉन्सेंट का एलिमेंट जो है वो टेस्ट होता है, फ्री कॉन्सेंट का नहीं. तो जब हम मिस्टेक की बात करते हैं तो लार्जली जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है वो वॉइड डिक्लेयर किया जाता है, जबकि इन बाकी सब एलिमेंट्स में 1 to 4 के एलिमेंट्स के अंदर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वॉइडेबल रहेगा. आई होप वी आर क्लियर विद दिस. Any doubt still here? Okay. I did not get a response, but I'm assuming that your silence is a consent.
It's clear, ma'am.
Great. Okay. Priyanshi, you've raised your hand. I hope that is for the consent and not otherwise. You have a doubt? Okay. Yeah.
Actually, ma'am, I was online on the other ID. I just joined this one. So could you please just give me a brief for a few seconds, like?
So we just started with the definition of the term voidable. We briefly differentiated it with the term void. And now we are moving to the next link of the chain, which is we defined the consent and free consent, and we differentiated between the two. And now we are moving to section 15, which talks about coercion. ठीक है, बाकी आप अपना पीछे जो मिस हुआ है वो कर लेना, but I'll be covering it through a course of MCQs after we are done with the basic content. Okay. Now, after this, let's come to the definition under section 15, which talks about coercion. Coercion is defined as: coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person, whatever, with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. Its explanation talks about jurisdiction. जो explanation है उसी के साथ आप illustration को link करते हैं, तो हम illustration और explanation से आने से पहले coercion के कुछ elements समझते हैं, right? It says coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. So if to divide it into elements, your first element would be committing, second would be threatening to commit. So either it could be committing, it could also be threatening to commit any act which is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. So your third element is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, or the unlawful detaining और थ्रेटनिंग टू डिटेन. तो यूजुअली आपके MCQs जब आते हैं तो हम coercion की डेफिनेशन को सिर्फ IPC से रिलेट करते हैं, that anything which is against the Indian Penal Code probably can be a coercive activity. But that's not the case entirely, because your definition also talks about unlawful detaining or threatening to detain. Now, even if it is one of those acts which falls under Indian Penal Code, under wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement, there is a very thin line of difference which we'll understand when we cover the differences between the term duress and coercion. But for now, just understand that one, it is about a violation of the Indian Penal Code, and second, it is about the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person, whatever, with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. Sorry, detaining or threatening to detain is particularly also with respect to a property, right? So I'll just repeat the elements here again. Coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, or unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. Few very important elements that you have to underline here is any person, the usage of any person that has been mentioned in this definition, to the prejudice of any person with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. So it could be to the prejudice of person A, but person B could be threatened to enter into a particular agreement, right? I hope we are in agreement with respect to the definition or the various elements of coercion till now. Now let's take a look at the explanation of this section. It says it is immaterial whether the Indian Penal Code is or is not enforced when the coercion is employed. इसका एग्जाम्पल आपको या इसका एक जो इलस्ट्रेशन है वो आपको इसी सेक्शन की इलस्ट्रेशन में मिलता है. It says A on board an English ship on the high seas causes B to enter into an agreement by an act amounting to criminal intimidation under the Indian Penal Code. So he's talking about an English ship which is on the high seas. A has employed coercion, although his act is not an offense by the law of England because the person is on an English ship, A and B. And although Section 506 of the Indian Penal Code was not enforced at the time when or the place where the act was doing, still it is immaterial whether the act has been committed under a foreign law or an Indian law. Still it would be an act of coercion if it is challenged under the Indian Contract Act. That is, the contract or the agreement has come into existence with respect to the Indian Contract Act. I hope we are all in clarity so far as the definition of the term coercion is concerned till now. अब इसको अगर हम sum up करने की कोशिश करें, इस पूरे definition में दो बहुत important elements निकलते हैं. One is committing or threatening to commit any act which is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, and second is unlawfully detaining or threatening to detain any property. Now there are several case laws with respect to the term of coercion. The first most important landmark case law, इसका summary आपको मिल जाएगा, बस अभी ध्यान से सुनो. The first most important case law in this respect is the case of Ranga Nyayakamma versus Alvar Setti. I'll write it. Ranga Nyayakamma versus Alvar Setti. Now, in this particular case, this is a Privy Council case of 1889. In this case, what had happened was that a particular woman's husband had expired, and the relatives of that person were forcing the woman that until and unless you adopt this particular child, we will not let you burn the pyre of your husband. We would, that was very confusing. We will not let you we will not let you cremate your husband's dead body. राइट. सो इसके अंदर ऐसे समझो कि अगर हम कोअर्जन का सेक्शन लगाएं तो डेड बॉडी वो प्रॉपर्टी है जिसको डिटेन करके रखा जा रहा है, जिसको क्रिमेट नहीं किया देने जा रहा है, एंड द वुमन इज लिटरली बीइंग फोर्स्ड, शी इज बीइंग कोअर्स्ड दैट अंटिल एंड अनलेस यू अडॉप्ट दिस चाइल्ड, यू अडॉप्ट दिस बॉय, वी विल नॉट लेट यू क्रिमेट दिस पर्टिकुलर डेड बॉडी. द कोर्ट, द मद्रास हाई कोर्ट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस हेल्ड दैट दिस इंडीड अमाउंटेड टू coercion. The most landmark case in this regard is the case of Chikkam Amiraju versus Chikkam Sheshamma. अब चिक्कम अमीराजू वर्सेस चिक्कम शेषम्मा में एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट आया as to whether committing suicide or whether threatening to commit suicide can be a punishable act. इसके अंदर वॉलिस जो उस टाइम पे चीफ जस्टिस थे, दिस इज अगेन अ प्रिवी काउंसिल केस ऑफ 1918, अ मद्रास हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट. इसके अंदर चीफ जस्टिस वॉलिस और जस्टिस शेषागिरी even a threat to commit suicide amounts to coercion within the meaning of section 15. But Justice Oldfield थे इस केस में जिन्होंने dissenting opinion दिया. उन्होंने कहा that suicide as such is an act which is not forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. Attempt to commit suicide has been forbidden by the Indian Penal Code, right? That also earlier. Now even attempt to commit suicide under section 309 has been decriminalized. पर अगर हम तब की बात करें, अगर हम 1918 की भी बात करें, तो जस्टिस ओल्डफील्ड ने बहुत ही लॉजिकल सा पॉइंट बोला. उन्होंने कहा कि थ्रेटनिंग टू कमिट सुसाइड, अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल सुसाइड कमिट कर लेता है या इस बेसिस पे किसी को थ्रेटन कर रहा है, तो इट कैन नॉट बी कोवर्जन, बिकॉज इंडियन पिनल कोड के अंदर तो उसको क्रिमिनलाइज किया ही नहीं हुआ है, ये अटेम्प्ट है जिसको क्रिमिनलाइज किया हुआ है. दीज आर कंप्लीटली टू डिफरेंट थिंग्स. सो उस सेंस में जस्टिस ओल्डफील्ड ने कहा कि ये पर्टिकुलर एक्ट जो है ये कोवर्जन में नहीं फॉल करेगी, और आज की डेट में तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं करेगी, बिकॉज किसी को थोड़ी भी डाउट हो इसके अंदर तो अटेम्प्ट टू कमिट सुसाइड सेक्शन 309 के अंदर पूरी तरह से अब डिक्रिमिनलाइज कर दिया गया है. और इस माइनॉरिटी ओपिनियन को, इस डिसेंटिंग ओपिनियन को Pollock and Mulla ने भी support किया. So with respect to suicide, even at that point of time, the opinion that was favored, or the opinion that was agreed to by most of the parties, was this, that attempt to commit suicide is an act which is punishable under the Indian Penal Code. Threatening to commit suicide is not, and that is why it would not amount to coercion under section 15. Right? Next is that with respect to any party, the two terms that we covered in the definition of section 15 of coercion under section 13, it says that an act causing coercion should not directly or should not necessarily be directed against the contracting party only. ये बहुत ही important है क्योंकि ये हमें English law से एक variance देता है. It says that it is enough that the act is to the prejudice of any person and with the intention of causing any other person to enter into an agreement. अगर हम इसको इंग्लिश लॉ के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कंपेयर करें, इंग्लिश लॉ के अंदर कोवर्जन टर्म दे ही नहीं रखा है. दे डिफाइन दिस एंटायर एक्ट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ ड्यूरेस. इन इंडियन लॉ, सो फार एज इंडियन लॉ इज कंसर्न, हम ड्यूरेस को तो एक आम इंग्लिश वर्ड मानते हैं, हम उसको किसी लॉ के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में नहीं कैटेगराइज करते हैं. हम कोवर्जन को एक लीगल टर्म मानते हैं. अगर आप सिनोनिम्स देखोगे तो कोवर्जन एंड ड्यूरेस आर कंसिडर्ड टू बी synonymous to each other. But so far as an element of law is concerned, in English law we say that it has to be the person to whom directly the harm is being caused, जिसको हम coercion में categorize कर सकते हैं. Having said that also, English law इतनी flexibility देती है कि अगर आपके वो close relative के relation में coercion है, आपके it's a coercion with respect to your child, your wife, or any close member of your family, then still they would categorize it under the definition of duress, right? But in Indian law ने एक बहुत ही broad scope दिया है when they talk about any person. So it could literally be any person. It could be that, let's say you are walking with a particular agreement, you're walking with a particular sale deed, and सड़क पे कोई जा रहा है, or let's say you're walking with your bag with you, which has a good amount of money. सड़क पे कोई जा रहा है and suddenly like he has another person, he catches hold of him and says, I will shoot this person in front of you if you don't give me the bag. Right? So, and when you read the Indian Penal Code, you will realize that you can't even be a participant of such a crime. एक पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन है जिसमें ये ब्रीफली डिस्कस किया जाता है. सो उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आप देख पाओगे कि with that context also, when we talk about section 15, so it would be coercion with respect to any person. Tomorrow you can say that this person was standing in front of me, इसने threaten किया दूसरे को मारने के लिए या कुछ करने के लिए, इसलिए मैंने वो बैग उसको दे दिया. A lot of Hindi movies that we watch, उसके अंदर हम देखते हैं कि usually छोटे बच्चे होते हैं या pregnant ladies होती है, उनको target कर लेते हैं, and then they say that if you don't part with this particular thing, I'll shoot you. That's the best example that you could understand while differentiating between Indian law of coercion and English law of duress. इंग्लिश लॉ में उसको ड्यूरेस नहीं माना जाएगा एक कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल एग्रीमेंट की रिस्पेक्ट में, पर इंडियन लॉ में उसको कोवर्जन डेफिनेटली माना जाएगा. अभी हमने ये तो देखा कि कौन से ऐसे वो केसेस हैं जो कोवर्जन की कैटेगरी में फॉल करते हैं. हैविंग सेड दैट, देयर आर आल्सो सर्टेन केसेस which do not fall in the category of coercion. One of the best examples of them is with respect to threat to strike. Now, there was a particular case of Eppin Estate versus Industrial Tribunal. In this particular case, it was held, और आज की डेट में भी अगर आप देखो इस केस का रेशियो बताने से पहले, in today's date also, your strike, party is going on a strike is a fundamental right under Article 19 of the Constitution of India. So threat to strike has nowhere been termed as illegal. That is a different thing, that if you unlawfully assemble with an unlawful objective of creating violence, that is definitely an activity which is punishable under the Indian Penal Code. But so far as your right to protest is concerned, going on a strike is very much legal, because it literally talks about the doctrine of collective bargaining. Right? So far as this particular doctrine of collective bargaining under the Industrial Dispute Acts is concerned, where the workers go on a strike so that some of their demands can be fulfilled, such a threat is neither an offense under the Indian Penal Code, nor is it unlawful detaining or threatening to detain of property, and hence such an agreement would not fall, or such an act would not fall under the category of coercion. I hope we are all clear with this respect. The next element which does not fall in the category of coercion is statutory compulsion. अब देखिए, जहां तक ये लॉकडाउन का सवाल चल रहा है, सो वी सी दैट गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटीज जो हैं वो पार्टीज को, जो भी लोग बाहर से आ रहे हैं या ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, you're seeing that they are being institutionally quarantined, right? The government is telling them that we don't know whether you agree to it or not. But अगर आप किसी बाहर की टेरिटरी से आ रहे हैं जो कि एक रेड जोन है या ऑरेंज जोन है, you would be required to be institutionally quarantined. That means that they would not keep you inside. You would not be allowed to go to your home. You would be required to stay in a government determined premises for a certain days until it is determined that you're perfectly asymptomatic. Now someone can say I don't agree to it. मेरी मर्जी, मेरा घर है, मैं अपने घर में जाना चाहता हूँ, अगर मैं इतनी देर से इतने दिनों बाद ट्रैवल करके आ रहा हूँ. I don't want to live in a government demarcated area. Can they say so? Can they say that we don't agree to it? No, they can't say it, because statutory compulsion जहां पर आ जाती है वहां पर coercion का element नहीं आएगा. This was particularly held in the case of Andhra Sugar Limited versus State of AP. Right? Okay. Now, when we cover coercion under section 15, we also have to read it with the term voidable under part 1 of section 19. So can we just have someone reading section 19 part 1? Kaveri, would you like to read? Just the first para of section 19.
Sure, just give me a minute. 19, para 1. The voidability of agreement without free consent. When consent to an agreement is caused by causing fraud or misrepresentation, the agreement is a contract voidable at the option of the party whose consent was so caused.
Right.
We want to read further?
No, that's it. And you can read the first illustration also, illustration A.
Yes. A, intending to deceive B, falsely represented that 500 mounts of indigo are made annually at A's factory and thereby induce B to buy the factory. The contract is voidable at the option of B.
The reason why I asked her to read this particular illustration was because it was talking about the general rule of para 1, which talks about the term voidable, as to how contracts which are for which the parties are made to agree or consent upon based upon misrepresentation, fraud and coercion are voidable agreements. ये specifically section 19 में दे रखा है. Section 15 के अंदर voidability की कोई भी बात नहीं है. When we cover undue influence, we see that the term voidable, that an agreement which has been entered into on account of undue influence is voidable, has specifically been mentioned there. But ये वाला जो element है कि ऐसा contract voidable होगा coercion की respect में, वो section 19 के अंदर दे रखा है. Section 15 को हम ना सिर्फ section 19 के साथ पढ़ते हैं, we also read section 72 with it. Can we have Jolly reading section 72 of Indian Contract Act?
Hello?
Yeah, Jolly, can you read section 72?
Okay. Let me come to that. Liability of person to whom money is paid or thing delivered by mistake or under coercion. A person to whom money has been paid or anything delivered by mistake or under coercion must repay or return it.
Right. So this particular section tells us that if that individual who coerced me to part my bag to him, to which I never agreed, so far as criminal law is concerned, definitely उसके ऊपर क्रिमिनल इंटिमिडेशन, रॉबरी, डेकॉइटी जो भी हैं वो सेक्शंस लगेंगे. पर जहां तक रही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट की बात, सेक्शन 72 में बहुत स्पेसिफिकली कहा गया है कि अगर आपने कोअर्जन का एक्ट कमिट किया है जिसकी वजह से यू हैव फोर्स्ड सम पर्सन टू पार्ट विद देयर प्रॉपर्टी और एंटर इनटू एन अग्रीमेंट, you would be required to follow the rules of restitution integrum, that is bring the thing back to its original owner or to the position where it was originally. डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ रेस्टिट्यूशन को हम ज्यादातर माइनर्स के केस के साथ रिलेट करते हैं, बट ये पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन आपको कहता है कि आप उसे सेक्शन 72 के सेक्शन 15 के साथ भी रिलेट करेंगे, right? So this was largely everything about the law of coercion, but we also have to see the difference, pinpointedly we have to see the difference between coercion as well as duress before we move to the elements of multiple choice questions. Now coercion is literally pointing out these differences even though we have discussed them largely. Coercion includes any act which is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. The duress, the term is not just very general so far as its dictionary meaning is concerned. So far as its applicability to law is concerned also, it is equally general. So coercion में तो आप सिर्फ Indian Penal Law की, Indian Penal Code की law से इस पूरे concept को relate करते हैं और वहां पर confine कर देते हैं, apart from detaining of property of course. But so far as duress is concerned, it includes any act which is forbidden by any law. That essentially means criminal law as well as tort law. So the concept of duress applies to laws in general and not any particular law. Again, as we've already discussed, that coercion can be with respect to any person or any property. जो duress है वो property के relation में नहीं define किया गया. अगर वो किसी जनरल लॉ के अंदर आ जाता है तो डेफिनेटली हाँ इंग्लिश लॉ उसे ड्यूरेस मानेगी, बट जनरली ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ड्यूरेस का इंग्लिश लॉ के अंदर ये पर्सन्स के साथ, ये ह्यूमंस के साथ रिलेट किया जाता है. इट इज नॉट रिलेटेड विद रिस्पेक्ट टू प्रॉपर्टी. Again, we have already seen in section 15 that coercion can move from any person, whereas duress can move from the party to the contract only, right? So we have to understand here very importantly, there are two elements of any person. One is that coercion can move from any person. So it could be any third person who is threatening any other person because of which this person X is forced to enter into a contract with Y. Do we see that? Let's say X's child is bullying Y's child in school, and X says that my child is not going to stop bullying your child until and unless you sign this agreement. अब जिसके ऊपर बुली हो रहा है और जो बुली कर रहा है वो पार्टीज टू द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं है, वो बिल्कुल स्ट्रेंजर्स हैं, बट उनकी वजह से ये जो X और Y हैं दे आर एंटरिंग इनटू एन अग्रीमेंट पर से, राइट? सो इसको भी हम कोवर्जन मानेंगे. पर ड्यूरेस की अगर हम इसी कॉन्सेप्ट को ड्यूरेस की एप्लीकेशन देते हैं तो ये ड्यूरेस नहीं होगा. Similarly, in coercion, you can say that the act may be directed against any person also. It can move from any person, it can be directed against any person. But again, so far as duress is concerned, it must be directed only against that specific party or at most a close relative of that party. Are we all clear with this? This was the entire concept of coercion. Any doubts still here?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have a question. Ma'am, I did not entirely understand the context of bringing in section 19 and 72 into this discussion.
Okay. See, अगर बहुत ब्लेटेंटली हम समझे कि हम इन सेक्शंस को क्यों लाए हैं, क्योंकि आप देखो कि ये दोनों सेक्शंस कोवर्जन की बात करते हैं. ये आपको तब समझ आएगा जब हम एक बार अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस की डेफिनेशन देखते हैं, which I wanted to read out before we move to our MCQs also. So I'll just quickly read out the definition of undue influence and then I'll tell you why we are using section 19 particularly so far as section 15 is concerned, right? I'll just read out this definition. Also, undue influence is particularly a very important concept for your exams. So please mark it also simultaneously. We'll give our next class to undue influence in Delhi. Section 16, undue influence says, a contract is said to be induced by undue influence where the relations subsisting between the parties are such that one of the parties is in a position to dominate the will of the other and uses that position to obtain an unfair advantage over the other. Clause 2 says, in particular and without prejudice to the generality of the foregoing principle, a person is deemed to be in the position to dominate the will of another, A, where he holds a real or apparent authority over the other, or where he stands in a fiduciary relationship with respect to the other, or B, where he makes a contract with a person whose mental capacity is temporarily or permanently affected by reason of age, illness, mental or bodily distress. Clause 3 says, where a person who is in a position to dominate the will of another enters into a contract with him and the transaction appears on the face of it or on the evidence adduced to be unconscionable, the burden of proving that such contract was not induced by undue influence shall be upon the person who is in a position of dominating the will of another. Nothing in this subsection shall apply to the provisions of section 111 of the Indian Penal Code. Now come to section 19 of the, section 19 per se. It talks about voidability of agreements without free consent. अगर आप undue influence की section को देखते हो, तो इसके अंदर आपको ये पता चलता है, particularly last para के अंदर, कि अगर पार्टीज अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस को ठीक करना चाहते हैं तो वो कर सकते हैं. मतलब वो एक वॉइडेबल अग्रीमेंट को वैलिड बना सकते हैं या वॉइड बना सकते हैं. इसका एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल ऐसे समझो दैट लेट्स से दैट अ पर्सन हैज बीन, लेट्स से आई रियली बिलीव इन सम बाबाजी and he tells me that if you want a prosperous, and I've given this example before, he tells me if you want a prosperous life, then what you should do is you should donate a majority of your property to the trust that I am running. And I say, and I am like an अंधभक्त of Babaji, so I believe कि हाँ अगर मैं इनको ये प्रॉपर्टी दे दूंगी तो मेरी लाइफ बहुत अच्छी हो जाएगी, तो मैं दे देती हूँ वो प्रॉपर्टी उनको. बीच में मुझे थोड़े डाउट्स आने लगते हैं, मुझे लगता है नहीं ये तो इन्होंने मुझे गलत इन्फ्लुएंस कर लिया, इन्होंने तो मुझसे सारा पैसा ले लिया, अब ये तो राज कर रहे हैं, एंड आई एम लेफ्ट विद हाफ माई प्रॉपर्टी एंड आई एम नॉट हैप्पी. So can I make this contract void? Yes, I can by citing undue influence. But if I say that yes, but let's assume that even after realizing, let's say वो बाबा जी किसी क्राइम में फिर पकड़े जाते हैं और मेरी सारी प्रॉपर्टी उनके पास है, एंड आई रियलाइज कि बाबा जी ने तो मुझे अंधभक्त बना दिया था जिसकी वजह से मैंने अपनी सारी प्रॉपर्टी उनको दे दी. But still I realized that no, probably, okay, he's been jailed and he's committed a crime and he was wrong, but I am still prosperous because I just realized that material attachments have no relevance in today's day and age. So I say that irrespective of whatever that person was, I am happy by donating that property to that particular trust because some people are getting benefited out of it. Right? So that means that a contract which was voidable, I have made that particular contract valid. अब ये जो स्पिरिट है ये आपको अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस के अंदर बहुत स्पेसिफिकली दिखती है कि आप एक वॉइडेबल चीज को वैलिड बना सकते हो अगर आप उस पर्टिकुलर एलिमेंट को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हो. पर कोवर्जन के अंदर ना सिर्फ ये टर्म वॉइडेबल यूज नहीं किया गया है, आपको सिर्फ कोवर्जन की एक बेसिक डेफिनेशन मिलती है, आपको इसके अलावा कोवर्जन के बारे में और कुछ नहीं पता चलता. तो उसे फर्दर क्लैरिफाई करने के लिए दो अलग हेडिंग्स के अंदर ये बताया गया है कि एक तो ये कि कोवर्जन जो है वो वॉइडेबल है, तो कल अगर आप ये चाहो कि ठीक है जो हुआ वो गलत हुआ पर अब हो गया है तो लेट दिस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बी अ वैलिड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, तो ये जो वॉइडेबल का एलिमेंट है ये आपको सेक्शन 19 में मिलता है. फ्रॉड, जहां पर फ्रॉड और मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन को भी वॉइडेबल डिफाइन किया गया है, और ये चीज सेक्शन 72 में रेस्टिट्यूशन का एलिमेंट. Let's say someone forced me to part with my bag, right? So if I'm going to file a case against him, let's say even a civil suit against him, where I tell that this person coerced me to part with my bag, otherwise I would have never parted with my bag. In that case also, like that person, if it is proved that there was an element of coercion and I forcibly parted with my bag, in that case also like he would be required to give me that bag back, है ना? वो तो होगा, बड़ी लॉजिकल सी चीज है कि उसको वो बैग मुझे वापस देना पड़ेगा. तो ये कहाँ लिखा है? ये सेक्शन 72 के अंदर लिखा है. आई होप वी आर क्लियर ना?
यस मैम, थैंक
तो
यू.
इसलिए मतलब सेक्शन 15 की अधूरी डेफिनेशन की वजह से सेक्शन 19 और सेक्शन 72 को हमें साथ पढ़ना पड़ता है, और कोई रीजन नहीं है इन दोनों सेक्शंस को हमें साथ क्यों पढ़ने की जरूरत है. ओके, अब अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस हमने कर्सरी तरीके में तो देख लिया है, इसको हम डिटेल में नेक्स्ट क्लास में देखेंगे. लेट्स जस्ट टेक अप अ फ्यू क्वेश्चंस एज वेल. आई जस्ट होप आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम ना आए. ओके, थैंक गॉड it's not come. Okay, guys, your quiz starts now. Your first question is, and this is slightly a confusing question, so give your answer carefully. A contract which is formed without the free consent of the parties is said to be A. Void ab initio, B. Void, C. Illegal, D. Voidable at the instance of the parties whose consent was not free. If you have listened to the this thing properly, you will get the answer to this. Someone has sent a chat.
D.
D. I think Simran has answered D.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Someone has sent a chat. मेरा ही chat नहीं खुल रहा है. My
Soumya and Mahima also are saying D.
D. Yes, the answer is D. I'm assuming. Okay, guys. Can you please read out the chat? My chat section is not opening. या फिर chat मत भेजो, बोल दो. Yeah, the answer is D. The answer. Some of you could think that the answer could be B. The answer could be void. But मैं आपको बता चुकी हूँ. जहाँ पे consent आए वहां पर void यूज करो. इसका एक सिंपल एलिमेंट है. जहां पे consent आए वहां पे void यूज करो. जहां पे free consent आए वहां पर voidable ही यूज करो. Right? And I've given you an explanation why it is so in the course of this lecture. Let's take the next question now. Consent under the Indian Penal Code, under the Indian Contract Act has been defined as A. Meeting of minds, B. Agreeing to the same thing in the same sense, C. Something for something, and D. None of the above.
B.
B.
The answer is B. I think Sukriti gave the answer first, or Monica gave. Or I think it was Mahima. I'm not sure. Sorry. Okay, coming back, but you know your points. Right? This is a competitive exercise. Yes, the answer to this question is B. Agreeing to the same thing in the same. Agreeing to the same thing in the same sense literally means meeting of minds. But here in a scenario like this, we always go with the most direct option, जो कि आपकी बेरैक्ट की exact language है. तो आपका आंसर होगा इसमें agreeing to the same thing in the same sense. Next question. Which section of the Indian Contract Act lays down that consent is said to be free when it is not caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, or mistake?
D.
D.
D. D.
D.
सेक्शन 14. ऐसे क्वेश्चंस में आप बहुत ज्यादा कंफ्यूज हो गए सेक्शन 13 और 14 के अंदर. तो क्यूफम इज सेक्शन 14. दैट्स अबाउट इट. इसको ऐसे याद रखना है. कॉन्सेंट 13, free consent, FC is CUSUM. FC is CUFUM. So free consent is coercion, undue influence, fraud, and misrepresentation, which you will find in section 14, right? Next question. Coercion is the committing or threatening to commit A. Any act forbidden by law with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. B. Any act forbidden by the law or unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. C. Any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property.
C.
Prejudice of any
C.
person.
C.
D. None of the above. Yes. So ऐसे क्वेश्चंस के अंदर आपका डायरेक्ट ऑप्शन जो इन ऑर्डर टू सेव टाइम आपको डायरेक्टली इंडियन पिनल कोड दिख रहा है तो सबसे पहले उसी ऑप्शन को शॉर्टलिस्ट करो. जस्ट रीड इट आउट टू मेक श्योर दैट देयर नो एविडेंट लूप होल्स इन दैट पर्टिकुलर ऑप्शन. If not, then that should be your correct option, and you don't have to feel the need of moving on to that other options, but that might not always be the case. Just make sure you're reading your options also side by side. Okay. In which cases there is no coercion? A. A contract made to avoid threatened prosecution. B. A threat to strike. C. A contract made under a
D.
C.
D.
The answer is D. So one of the elements which we had not covered in class was a contract made to avoid a threatened prosecution. In that case also, that would not fall under the category of coercion. क्यों? क्योंकि ये इंडियन पिनल कोड में इसके बारे में कुछ नहीं है, one, और second ये डिटेंशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी के बारे में नहीं बात कर रहा. So let's say that I have let's say that I have been divorced. I am a person X. I have been divorced with my wife Y, and I have not been paying maintenance so far to her. So she says that if you will start paying maintenance from now on, I will not go and file a case against you under the मेंटेनेंस एक्ट और द डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट, या फिर डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट के अंदर भी हम देखते हैं कि मीडिएशन के थ्रू कई बार प्रोसिक्यूशंस को रोक लिया जाता है ना. सो ऐसे केसेस भी आप कोवर्जन की कैटेगरी में नहीं क्लासिफाई करेंगे. लास्ट क्वेश्चन फॉर द डे, मार्क द करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट. अंडर इंग्लिश लॉ coercion may proceed from a person who is not a party to a contract. Under English law, duress should be directed against the party to the contract himself, while under Indian law, coercion may also be directed against a person who may be a stranger to a contract. C, under English law, duress includes fear of loss to life or bodily harm, while under Indian law, coercion also includes threat in relation to property. D, all of the above. A, under English law, coercion may proceed from a person who is not a party to the contract. Okay, mark the correct statement. A किसने बोला?
I think it is
Ma'am, I said.
D.
Sorry, I couldn't see.
Ma'am,
Who was
B.
the I?
Swagata.
Swagata. Okay. Okay. Who's saying B?
Simran.
Monica.
Okay. And C?
B.
Okay. पहला ऑप्शन देखते हैं पहले. अंडर इंग्लिश लॉ कोअर्जन में प्रोसीड फ्रॉम अ पर्सन हु इज नॉट अ पार्टी टू अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. ये ऑप्शन तो बिल्कुल ही गलत है. पहली बात तो इसलिए क्योंकि इंग्लिश लॉ में हम कोअर्जन टर्म यूज करते ही नहीं है. द टर्म दैट वी यूज इज ड्यूरेस, राइट? सो दिस ऑप्शन ऑन द फेस ऑफ इट प्राइमा फेसाई ही उसकी वजह से गलत हो जाता है. और दूसरा भी इसलिए कि ड्यूरेस के अंदर इट हैज टू बी अ स्पेसिफिक पर्सन हु इज अ पार्टी टू द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. That is why I made you underline those two any persons in section 15 का definition of the contract act. Any person जो है, it is peculiar to Indian law and that is something entirely opposite of English law. English law में जो parties हैं contract के, वो ही उन्हीं के against या वो ही move कर सकती हैं duress के element को. I hope the person who gave option A is sure now that it is definitely the incorrect option. Option B says, under English law, duress should be directed against the party to the contract himself. Okay, itna element theek hai. While under Indian law, coercion may also be directed against a person who may be a stranger to the contract. We've already discussed this, that the second part is also correct. English law specifically deals with only the parties to the contract. Indian law में section 15 में आपको any person बहुत blatantly वहाँ पे दिख रहा है. That means this particular option is correct. Option C says, under English law, duress includes the fear of loss of life or bodily harm, while under Indian law, coercion also includes threat in relation to property. Now, this option would have been correct if English law was not just restricted to fear of loss of life or bodily harm. Yes, it is in relation to a person, but there could be other elements also. Like there could be an element of threat, assault. There could be an element of nuisance with respect to a particular person. Because we are not limiting English law only to क्रिमिनल एलिमेंट, हम उसे टॉर्ट के एलिमेंट की तरफ भी लेकर जा रहे हैं, तो इसलिए हम उसे सिर्फ यहां पर नहीं रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर देंगे. फियर ऑफ लॉस ऑफ लाइफ और बॉडली हार्म, एनीथिंग विच इज हार्मिंग अ पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल और अ पर्सन, वो ड्यूरेस की कैटेगरी में आएगा. बट इंडियन लॉ में तो हम देख चुके हैं दैट डेफिनेटली इट इज इन रिलेशन टू अ पर्टिकुलर पर्सन, अ बॉडली हार्म टू अ पर्टिकुलर पर्सन, so far as the Indian Penal Code is concerned, but also we are talking about any threat in relation to a property, especially with respect to detention of a particular property, right? So here we see that option B is the correct answer. I hope we are all clear with the concept of coercion now.
Yes, ma'am.
Duress, criminal and tort, and Indian contract only limited to criminal.
Indian Contract Act is only limited to the Indian Penal Code and the detention of property or the threatening to detain a property, right? So Indian coercion में, Indian Act में 3 elements हैं. एक बार दोबारा इस section को देखते हैं. It says coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act which is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. तो Indian Penal Code में भी commit या threatening to commit 2 elements आते हैं. or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person. प्रॉपर्टी में भी अनलॉफुल डिटेंशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी, मैंने आपके घर के कागज रख दिए कि जब तक आप इसको साइन करके मेरे नाम पे नहीं करोगे ये घर, मैं ये कागज आपको देने नहीं वाले, कर लो जो करना है। पर आप अपने घर के कागज किसी और को देना चाहते हो, किसी और के नाम पे वो प्रॉपर्टी करना चाहते हो, तो एम आई कमिटिंग कोवर्जन अगेंस्ट यू? यस आई एम, राइट, क्योंकि मैं तो आपको वो कागज ही नहीं दूंगी जब तक आप ये घर मेरे नाम पे नहीं करते हो। तो ये उस रिलेशन में बात कर रहा है। बट लेट्स से मैंने आपके सर के ऊपर बंदूक तान दी कि आई विल किल यू इफ यू डोंट पार्ट विद योर प्रॉपर्टी पेपर्स, right? So इसके अंदर I am not killing you instantly. As of now, I am threatening to kill you. But let's say there is a person X who is very close to you and I shoot that person. And I say कि अब मैंने इसको मार दिया है, अब इसका कोई रोल नहीं है, अब ये प्रॉपर्टी के कागज मुझे दो, नहीं तो मैं तुमको भी मार दूंगी। तो neither, not just am I threatening here, I have also committed an act which is an offense under the Indian Penal Code already. तो इसके अंदर वो दोनों एलिमेंट्स फुलफिल हो रहे हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ विच आई एम आस्किंग यू टू पार्ट विद दैट पर्टिकुलर प्रॉपर्टी। तो कोवर्जन यहाँ पर दो रिस्पेक्ट्स में आता है। आर यू क्लियर ना?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So friends, this was everything about coercion. There are 4 landmark cases that you have to know here. आपको वो revision document LMS में मिल जाएगा क्लास के बाद। कल की क्लास का भी आपको मिल गया होगा अब तक, प्लीज चेक कर लेना। And उसके अलावा you have to see that section 15 has to be read with section 19 and section 72. Another takeaway that you have to take from this class is that the Indian Contract Act defines 2 terms, consent and free consent. फ्री कॉन्सेंट को हम क्यूफम की रिस्पेक्ट में ज्यादा देखते हैं, जो हमें सेक्शन 14 में मिलता है। कॉन्सेंट को हम ज्यादातर मिस्टेक, सिर्फ मिस्टेक की रिस्पेक्ट में ज्यादा देखते हैं, और ये वॉइड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स के कॉन्सेप्ट में ज्यादातर अप्लाई होता है और सेक्शन 13 के अंदर डिफाइन किया गया है। So I'll end today's class here. I hope no one has any doubts still here. We'll start with undue influence in the next class for contracts. I hope all of you remember that you have to make presentations tomorrow. I will have very little element in tomorrow's class. So please make sure that the notes that were listed on the WhatsApp group regarding PIL, judicial activism, judicial overreach, and judicial evasion have been made by you till now. Please make sure that you're ready for your presentations. जो लोगों ने volunteer नहीं किया है, you would also be a part of the debate. You would also be required to speak. So please make sure that you read about it and come to class tomorrow, because as much as I like speaking and speaking very fast, I'm going to refrain from doing so in the next class, right? Okay. Thank you guys.